Okay, I'm gonna say the thing nobody says out loud. If you're avoiding people more and more, it's not because you're becoming cold. It's because your brain learned something. Some conversations cost you days. Some people leave a residue on you. And your nervous system is finally like refusing to pay that price anymore. And here's the twist that will mess with your head in a good way sometimes. That's not isolation. Sometimes it's protection. Sometimes God is not taking your people away to punish you, but to stop you from bleeding your future out in little useless interactions. So let's talk about it for real. So let's call this part Chapter 1, Your nervous system is voting no. Let's start simple. You're avoiding people more and more because your body is keeping score, even when your mind tries to be polite. And the body doesn't care about social rules. It cares about safety, it cares about recovery, it cares about what drains you and what restores you. You know what I mean? You meet someone and nothing bad happens, but you go home and you feel tired in a weird way, like you didn't even do anything, you just talked. But your chest feels tight, your mind is noisy, you start replaying the conversation, you feel slightly irritated, slightly empty, slightly guilty, slightly off. That's not random. That's information. A lot of people grew up learning to override that information. They learn to smile, agree, be helpful, be nice, keep the peace, be the strong one, be the listener, be the one who doesn't make it awkward. And if you did that for years, you trained yourself to ignore your own internal signals. But here's the thing, ignoring signals doesn't delete them, it just delays the bill. So now what happens? You're older, you're more aware, you've been through enough disappointment, enough fake friends, enough family drama, enough one-sided situations, enough I'm only calling you when I need something, enough being the emotional garbage bin, enough being the therapist, enough being the one who understands everyone while nobody understands you. So your nervous system starts doing something that looks like withdrawal, but it's actually intelligence. It's voting no, not because you hate people, but because you don't want to keep paying for social contact with your peace. And honestly, this is where a secret truth comes in. People think healing looks like being social again, like you're supposed to become this open, friendly, always available person. But for a lot of people, healing starts with the opposite. You stop giving yourself away. You stop forcing connection. You stop being available by default. You start becoming selective. I think this is the part that makes you feel a little weird. Like you're in a room and you're listening to people talk, and on the surface, it's normal, it's polite, it's friendly, but inside you're like, I can hear what you're not saying, and I know how that sounds. I know it sounds crazy, but if you've lived long enough and you've been through enough, you start noticing this gap between words and intention. It's like someone says, I'm happy for you, but your body is like, no, you're not. Someone says, we should meet soon, and your body is like, you're never gonna message me again. Someone says, I'm just being honest, and your body is like, you're trying to dominate this conversation. And it's not that you're a mind reader in some superhero way, it's more like you read the subtitles. You read the tone, the timing, the little pauses, the choice of words, the way they avoid certain things, the way they over-explain, the way they perform. And if you've been a person who grew up around inconsistency or emotional games or people who said one thing and did another, your brain becomes a pattern machine. It gets too good at detecting the difference between real and rehearsed. So yeah, you start avoiding people because it feels like you're sitting through theater. And you're like, why are we all pretending? Can we just speak like humans? And that's where you get labeled as intense or too serious or judgmental. And honestly, you might be sometimes, because once you start seeing masks, you can start getting impatient with everyone who wears one. But here's the twist that most people miss. Some people are not fake. They're just polite, and there is a difference. Let me explain it in a way that's simple. Fake is when someone uses politeness as a costume to hide an agenda. Polite is when someone is trying to be respectful, even if they're nervous. Fake is calculated. Polite is awkward. Fake is trying to control the outcome. Polite is trying not to hurt anyone. Fake is, I'm saying this so you see me a certain way. Polite is, I don't know you yet. I'm trying to be decent. And if you're the kind of person who can feel energy, you might accidentally treat polite people like they're fake because you're allergic to performance. You don't want to waste time. You don't want to get played. So your nervous system goes, nope, I've seen this movie. And you cut them off mentally before they've even had a chance to show you who they are. And I'm not saying that to blame you. I'm saying it because it's a pattern worth seeing. Because if your instinct is strong, and it is, sometimes the danger is you start trusting your instinct so much that you stop gathering data. You stop allowing time to reveal truth. You become so selective that you don't just avoid fake people, you avoid potential. And I know your brain immediately goes, no, because people are fake. Yes, many are, but not all. And this is where it gets interesting, because there are few people you meet and you can't hear their hidden thoughts. You can't read their agenda. You can't catch the calculation. And instead of that making you feel safe, it can actually make you feel unsettled because you're used to scanning. You're used to reading people like a survival skill. So when you meet someone who is just straightforward, it's like your brain is confused. Like, wait, where's the hook? Where's the twist? Where's the manipulation? And there isn't one. They're just what they are. They say what they mean. They don't over-explain. They don't perform. They don't try to trap you into validating them. They don't do that democratic politeness thing where everything is a debate and nothing is real. They're simple. And when you're around them, your shoulders drop. You breathe deeper. You don't feel like you have to manage the room. You can actually be yourself. And that is one of the biggest signs you're healing, by the way. Not when you can spot fake. Anyone can spot fake if they've been burned enough. The real sign is when you can feel your body relax around someone. That's rare. So here's the deep truth. You avoiding people more and more might not be you becoming antisocial. It might be you becoming calibrated, like a tuning fork. You can't stay around certain frequencies because it makes you sick. And yes, I'm going to bring God into it, but in a grounded way. I believe God gives some people discernment, not to make you paranoid, not to make you arrogant, not to make you judge everyone like you're the final authority of the earth, but to protect your heart and your path. Some people can't afford to be naive because their calling requires clarity. If you're easily influenced, easily pulled into drama, easily distracted, you lose your direction. So God makes you sensitive. But discernment is not the same as suspicion. Let me say that again because it matters. Discernment is quiet. Suspicion is noisy. Discernment observes. Suspicion reacts. Discernment waits for patterns. Suspicion decides too fast because it's scared. So if you're avoiding people, ask yourself something honest. Am I avoiding because my spirit is protecting me? Or am I avoiding because I don't want to risk being seen? Because those are different. Avoiding because someone is fake is wisdom. Avoiding because you're afraid of closeness, that's pain. And pain will keep you alone even when good people appear. And I think this is where your deepest fear lives. Not the fear of being alone. You survived alone. Your deeper fear is trusting the wrong person again. Your deeper fear is letting someone in and then realizing you are a fool. Your deeper fear is being seen and then being used. So you become hyper selective and you tell yourself it's standards. But underneath it, it's fear of humiliation. And that fear makes you do a weird thing. It makes you walk into rooms with a shield. You're scanning, you're testing, you're watching for signs. And here's the funny part. People can feel that. Even good people, even polite people, even people with no agenda. They can feel when someone is looking at them like a suspect. So sometimes your attitude is the thing that keeps people at a distance, not because you're rude, but because you're guarded in a way that says, don't come close unless you pass a secret exam. And most normal, healthy people don't want to take an exam to be your friend. They're just like, okay, I'll leave you to it. And then you think, see, nobody stays. But they didn't leave because you're unlovable. They left because the door looked locked. So here's the grown version of this. Yes, be selective. Yes, trust your discernment. Yes, protect your peace. But don't become so sharp that you cut off the very thing that could heal you. Because the point of discernment is not isolation, it's clean connection. And maybe you can afford to give people a chance. Not a blind chance, not a naive chance, a measured chance. A chance where you observe patterns instead of reacting to one moment. A chance where you let time reveal whether they're real or just polite. Because, let's be honest, sometimes people aren't fake, they're just scared. Sometimes they're not calculating, they're just nervous. Sometimes they're not hiding an agenda, they're just trying not to be judged. And if you're the type who can feel energy, you might accidentally intimidate people because you feel like a spotlight, like you see through them, and they sense it, so they perform more, and then you call them fake, and now the loop is complete. So what do you do with this? Here's the simple value. You develop by noticing your pattern. Your pattern might be, I read people so fast that I don't give reality time to prove itself. Or, I only feel safe when I'm in control, so I avoid people who could actually get close. Or, I confuse politeness with manipulation because I've been manipulated before. Or, I only relax around very rare people, so I reject everyone else too quickly. If you can see that, you win, because now you have discernment and humility. That's the balance. And if you believe in God, here's the spiritual layer. God doesn't just train you to detect darkness. God trains you to recognize light, real light, calm light, stable people, people without hidden hooks, people who don't need you to shrink, people who don't need you to perform, people who let you breathe. That's the sign. When your shoulders relax and you can be you. So, yes, you avoid people more and more, but maybe the goal isn't avoid everyone. Maybe the goal is stop wasting yourself. Stop giving your time to fake rooms. Stop feeding empty talk, and also don't punish the real ones because you're afraid of being disappointed again. That's the middle path. That's maturity. That's healing. That's discernment. And if you felt called out by this, good, because it means you're awake enough to change your pattern, not just your circle. So people grow up and they think life is about rules, not inner rules, external rules. Do this, get rewarded. Don't do that, get punished. And then they enter the real world and it's like, wait, that's not how it works at all. The real world rewards people who can move without permission, people who can organize themselves, people who can learn fast, people who can keep going when it's boring, people who can handle pressure without turning it into drama. And that's why when you start waking up, you start avoiding people, because you realize so many conversations are basically autopilot, like the same recycled opinions, the same complaints, the same drama, the same, did you see what they posted? The same, I hate my life, the same victim loop. And you're sitting there like, am I crazy, or is this a trap? Because it pulls you down. It pulls your mind into weakness. It makes you forget what you're building. And then here comes the funny part. People start calling you different, like it's a problem, like you're supposed to stay the same forever so they can feel comfortable. They'll be like, you changed. And you're like, yes, that's literally the point. I'm not trying to stay a sheep just because everybody else is walking in a straight line. And look, I'm going to say something that might sound harsh. Weak people are easier to control. Confused people are easier to lead. Emotionally hungry people are easier to manipulate. Not because someone is sitting in a dark room planning your downfall, but because that's just reality. If you don't control your mind, something else will. If you don't choose your focus, something else will. If you don't lead yourself, you'll get led. So when you start getting selective, it's not arrogance, it's survival, but like grown survival, not fear survival. It's you realizing, I can't afford to be in rooms that make me stupid. And this is where the sheep and wolf thing comes in. Some people look at you and think you're soft because you're quiet, because you're not loud, because you're not fighting for attention, because you're not constantly announcing your goals, because you're not performing. And they'll misread that like, oh, you're a sheep. But what if you're the wolf who doesn't want to be a wolf? Like, you have intensity, you have a mind, you can see patterns, you can outthink situations, you can dominate conversations if you wanted, you could manipulate if you wanted, you could play games if you wanted, but you don't want to, because you hate ugly power, you hate cheap wins, you hate that feeling of using people, so you choose restraint, you hide, you keep your power quiet, you'd rather be underestimated than become something you don't respect. And people don't understand that. They think loud equals strong. They think aggressive equals powerful. They think the person who talks the most is the leader. No. Half the time, the loud person is just insecure. The quiet person is usually guarding something, guarding focus, guarding direction, guarding discipline, guarding their peace. And here's where I bring God in, but in a grounded way. If you believe in God, you know He doesn't build strong people through comfort only. He builds them through pressure, through discipline, through hidden seasons, through that weird phase where you don't fit in anymore, but you also don't know your new place yet. That's training. That's internal government. That's God teaching you to lead yourself, because real power isn't noise. Real power is steadiness. So if you're avoiding people more, it might be because your spirit is choosing distance on purpose. Not because you hate humans, but because you're done being programmed. You're done living on default. You're done being pulled into weak thinking. And one last thing, you might be a bit too judgmental sometimes. Like, let's be honest. When you wake up, you can start seeing everyone as asleep and you can get impatient. But the fix isn't to go back to being available for everybody. The fix is to become precise. Be selective, yes, but also be fair. Learn your pattern. Learn when you're protecting your peace and when you're just avoiding discomfort. Because growth is not just seeing other people clearly, growth is seeing yourself clearly too. So here's what I think is really going on. You're not just avoiding people because they're fake. You're avoiding the feeling you get when you're around the wrong energy. that tight chest, that little irritation, that sense of, I can't fully be me here. And you learned a long time ago, if you can't be you, you'd rather be alone. But then there's this other truth you don't say out loud. Sometimes you cut people off too fast. Not because you're cruel, but because you're scared of being wrong again. Scared of trusting. Scared of opening up and then feeling stupid later. So you become selective, but sometimes it turns into a silent test. Like people have to prove they're safe before you even let them talk to you properly. And I get it. I really do. So the question isn't, why do people disappoint me? The question is, what pattern do I keep repeating to stay safe? Because God can give you discernment, yes, but discernment without softness turns into suspicion, and suspicion turns into isolation. So maybe the next level isn't let everyone in. Maybe it's this: give the right people a fair chance and stop punishing new people for old pain. You can afford that now. You're not that powerless kid anymore. See you in my next video.